first speaker is Mr. Doug Bennett. And yesterday afternoon, we talked about getting out of our silos, and one man who's done that is Doug Bennett with the Water Smart Innovations Conference. Doug has more than 24 years of professional experience relating to water management. As the conservation manager for the Southern Nevada Water Authority in Las Vegas, Nevada, he oversees one of the most comprehensive water conservation programs in the United States. Since 2008, he served as the program chair of the Water Smart Innovations Conference, the world's largest professional event dedicated to urban water efficiency. For the past 2 years, he has served as a water efficiency technical advisor to the U.S. Green Building Council. Mr. Bennett holds a Bachelor of Arts in Agriculture and a Master of Arts in Business and Personnel Management from New Mexico State University. Please welcome Doug Bennett.
Good morning. Thank you, Bob, for that introduction. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate being at this event. You know, frankly, this is my second one, and I find that this is one of the events that I really thrive in. I hope you're having the same experience. I think it's great that they're making a commitment to put all of this on YouTube. In fact, I put out a little blurt yesterday to my peers telling them to watch for the videos because I think there's a lot of value in what we're learning here. Should be available to everyone. And Russ tells me they have a new strategy to make sure that more people see these videos on YouTube. So if you go to check the content later, don't be shocked if it says crazy kittens at ETS, so that more people will log in and check that out. How many of you live east of the Mississippi River? Somewhere that it's green most of the time. Most of you folks, but and most of you are world travelers, so I'm not going to tell you some things that you don't know, but I'm going to basically tell a little story about what's going on in the western U.S. and what our experience in Las Vegas was. So we rely on the Colorado River. It's the single, in my opinion, the single most challenged river system anywhere in North America. It serves about 30 million people. That's 1 out of every 10 Americans. In 7 states in the country of Mexico, we irrigate more than 4 million acres of farmland with that water. And the river is over-allocated. So it was based upon early century 1900 to 1920s hydrology, and more checks have been written on that river than we now know that river is able to produce in water revenue. We also see that drought and climate change impacts are probably likely to have a negative effect on the river basin. Storage is down to about 50% of its capacity. We have 2 grand reservoirs on that river, and 90% of my city's water supply is tied to that challenged watershed, as are many other communities. So, is it an imperiled system? It certainly is a system that bears close watching. Just 1.8% of the water, those checks that I said were written on that river, 1.8% of it is allocated to Nevada. And so despite the fact that we have a proximity to Lake Mead, a very tiny fraction of the water that passes through Lake Mead is actually available to us. That white line you see around the lake bed there, it's about 150 feet high in that particular photo. And so from 2000 to current day, trillions of gallons of water have been taken from the reservoir without Mother Nature replenishing it. The watershed has produced about 2/3 of its normal flow since the year 2000. We expect another bad year. So we had a good year last year. Lake came up 50 feet, but we're expected to go down another 15 feet this year. So plenty of challenges for Colorado River users. Now, things that work in some communities don't work for every community, so let me tell you how we get our water. It comes out of the Colorado River, and the water master, the federal government Bureau of Reclamation, debits our account when we withdraw that water. Goes to a water treatment plant, it's piped into the city, and it's got one of 2 fates. We either send water inside of a building, and 40% of our water goes there, or we send it outside of a building, 60% of our water goes to landscape and other consumptive evaporative uses. Now, if the water goes into a building, it's got to get out via the sewer system, goes to a water treatment plant. 5% of our wastewater is what we consider to be directly reused. It goes to golf courses, power plants, and other consumptive users. And 95% of our treated wastewater is going back to the Colorado River, and we get credit for that. So just as taking $100 out of an ATM machine, spending 40 of it, spending 60 of it, putting the other 40 back in the bank, basically that water is going to be indirectly reused via storage in Lake Mead. So in that context, all wastewater in the Las Vegas Valley is already being reused. It's already part of our water supply. And you might be surprised to find out that we discourage by policy the use of on-site water reuse systems. We don't want the homeowner to collect their own gray water and water their yard with it. And there are several reasons for that. Number one, several studies have found that people treat that water with less respect than they would water that was delivered through a municipal system. And a lot of that water, frankly, gets squandered. Laundry day is not a good reason to irrigate your plants, but a lot of gray water systems work that way. You do your laundry on the same schedule in January as you do in July, but the water needs are very different in your landscape, so we'd rather manage that on a municipal scale. This is where our water goes. You can see most of it goes to the residential sector in blue. You see our highly touted resort sector in the red, 7%, the golf sector almost another 7%. And the other sectors coming in play, but most of our water goes to residential uses like most other cities. So the key is outdoor water use. The greatest opportunity for conservation lies in curbing wasteful outdoor uses. And we use a number of different tools for that. We use water pricing, we use incentives, regulation, and education, and those tools all play together. For example, if I regulate the waste of water, you may get a notice saying you were wasting water, running it down the street. That shows up in the terms of water pricing as a fee attached to your water bill. You get angry, you come check with us, you maybe get a little bit of education, and maybe I come back to you with an incentive program for some kind of a retrofit that can improve that situation and get the wasted water out of the street. And so we need all of those tools. In the regulatory front, we use landscape development codes, golf course water budgets, mandatory watering restrictions, and water waste fees. And I'm going to tell you a little more about those. Since 2003, we've prohibited the development of lawns in the front yards of residential homes. Doesn't mean you can't have a lawn in an existing home, but if you buy a new home, you're going to have some other style of landscaping similar to this picture. And we found from research that lawns take 4 times as much water as other types of landscape. And we don't have the water for that. So since lawns, for the most part, were decorative in our valley, we said, let's take out the non-functional turf, let's put in the plants that are better adapted. We went from 73 gallons per square foot of demand annually to 17 gallons per square foot of demand. So this is an important tool for us. In the commercial sector, just FYI, since we implemented that, we've built 140,000 homes to that standard. So it's certainly something that works and the community has accepted it well. In the commercial sector, there's very little reason to have a lawn other than for ornamental effect. And so unless you're running a daycare center, a private school, building a soccer field, something that's absolutely functional, we don't use lawn grass at all in the ornamental landscape of non-residential construction. In the golf course sector, we put all the golf courses on a water budget. Now, if you've seen drought conditions in your area, you've probably heard about them telling some sector that everybody needs to cut their water use down by 10 or 15 or 20%. It's really not fair to the people that have been performing effectively all along, so we use the budget approach. What you see here are a bunch of golf courses. Each one of those orange bars represents the water use of an individual golf course on a per acre basis. So the folks on the right hand of that graph are the highest water users. The folks on the left hand are the lowest water users. The red line is a water budget that we implemented. You can see that from one year to the next, the orange transitioning to the blue, how the highest water users responded to the water budget. That's fair. The beauty of it was, politically, 2/3 of the golf courses supported the water budget, and 1/3 politically tried to fight it. Who do you think those folks were? So the folks with the highest water use produced the results for the entire industry, and it's fair to everyone. Now, a lot of you have been here. This is the Las Vegas Strip, and I know it has a lot of bearing on your perception of who we are and how we treat water. This is a street view of Caesar's Palace. And you may not know that on any given day, we have more than 400,000 people in Las Vegas visiting. 1 out of every 6 human beings in my city right now is not from Las Vegas. So we have a fairly large population of temporary visitors that we support. But now we're looking at Caesar's Palace from the air. Can you see where we were standing and took that first photograph? That's the scale of it. So we create a terrific facade. It's part of the appeal of gaming is to present you with that, but the reality is most of the 80 acres here is covered by buildings, parking lots, structures, and so forth, and very little of it is actually landscaping, water, and other amenities that people form that perception on. In fact, Southern Nevada's resort sector only consumes 3% of Nevada's water resources, but it produces about 70% of our economy. That's a pretty good return. When we look at where water goes, I told you, water used indoors does not hit us as hard as water used outdoors. It's those terminal, consumptive, evaporative uses that eat up the water supply that's available to us. The mega resorts we found use 75% of their water indoors, and that water has the ability to be captured and reused. 25% of their water use is consumptive, lost to the atmosphere. So what are those big ticket items that we lose that water to the atmosphere through? Well, of course, fountains, swimming pools, lush landscaping, right? Air conditioning uses more than half of that consumptive water use. So the HVAC systems consume more water than the swimming pools, fountains, and landscaping combined at a mega resort. So they certainly some surprises there, I guess, for our visitors who see these other types of uses, but nobody ever suggests to me that we turn off the air conditioning. We also have drought watering restrictions. Everybody's on a watering schedule and it has assigned watering days, and unlike a lot of cities, we allow you to choose your own days during the summer. We found the greatest savings potential is actually in the fall and early winter. That's when people are most inclined to overwater their plants, and as Brent Meekum told us, a smart controller can take care of that waste for you, but we found that until smart controllers become commonplace, that might be the way to go is with the schedule. We also have water cops. They investigate as many as 30,000 incidents a year. If you're wasting water, you get a warning. If you don't heed that warning, get caught again, you get assessed a fee on your water bill. If we catch you after that, that fee is doubled again, doubled again, doubled again. You can be assessed as much as $5,000, and they have assessed people as much as $5,000 for wasting water. In fact, as much as $400,000 a year was assessed in the early phases of this program. So it's pretty significant, and putting it right on the bill really makes an impact on people. Water pricing is done with a tiered rate structure, and this is a pretty confusing graph, but what I'm showing you is the evolution of the tiered rate structure. See that blue bar on the bottom? We had virtually a flat rate water rate back in the early 1990s. It had a little bump in it, but not much effect. Then we began to evolve a tiered rate structure. So you see more tiers and higher tiers, but generally what you see is a 4-tiered system that over time has become steeper and more compressed. So you hit those tiers faster. It encourages people to conserve water, especially in those discretionary outdoor uses. And that constitutes, what you're seeing there is an average of 17% per year in water rate increases. And as we saw yesterday from Mr. Hoffman, water is going to increase at a faster percentage rate than energy costs in the coming future. We have a lot of incentive programs, so I want you to change your landscape. I'm trying to get rid of that ornamental lawn, so I offer people money for that. We also handle pool covers, smart irrigation controllers, and rain sensors. We have a program for big users called Water Efficient Technologies for industrial and heavy commercial users. And that program also includes HETs and high-efficiency urinals in both new and existing construction. And we do an indoor retrofit program for our residential customers. So in our landscape retrofit, we've done 154 million square feet of landscape. Now to put that into perspective, everyone knows what a roll of sod looks like that you buy at the nursery, right? Piece of grass. It's about yay wide. We've converted enough turf grass in my valley to create a roll of sod that goes 80% of the way around the earth. And if you had told me when I arrived there 12 years ago that we even had that much grass in my community, I would have said you're crazy. But not only have we done that, there's still ornamental grass out there that hasn't been converted. So there's still remaining potential. We spent over $170 million doing that in rebates, and collectively it saved us about 50 billion gallons of water. Here's an example of what you could expect to see in my community. This is Southern Nevada home builders shortly after their building went up. Lovely grass, we put it on everything. It's cheap, it's easy. The builder puts it up, somebody else is going to pay the bills to water it. That's the building before, this is that same building after a conversion. I think the after picture is more attractive than the before picture. It's aesthetically pleasing. Let's have a look at their water bill. They were using 1 million gallons of water per year. And there are only 5 people that work in that building. Most of that water was going onto that lawn in front of the building, and you can see after they did the conversion, they cut out about 80% of that water use. The water bill went from $2,600 per year to $770 per year. Now, I think that's a great success story. My finance manager is not quite as keen on that. We have a lot of partnerships, so I'm going to tell you more about one of them. Water Smart Home. We work with landscape contractors, car washes, restaurants, the lodging industry, with a business coalition. And of course, the Water Smart Innovations Conference is a way for us to work with partners on a national and international scale, including IAPMO and other Alliance for Water Efficiency and other folks that you'd meet here in this meeting. So let me tell you about the Water Smart Home. It's a voluntary program. It's much like the WaterSense program we heard about. It requires high-efficiency plumbing fixtures, appliances, landscape, and irrigation to go into these homes to get the label. And it's the single largest and most successful program of its kind in the United States. In fact, it served as the model for the WaterSense home program that's being implemented nationally. We've built about 9,000 of these homes since 2005. I want to look at that program a little more closely and give you some results from a study that we recently conducted. This is the EPA New Homes Water Efficiency Study, and if you want to see the full study, you can go to aquacraft.com, and you'll find a whole list of the projects they've worked on, and this is one of them. But what you see in this chart is that pre-existing homes, pre-2000 homes, which are the blue bars in each of those cities, were being compared to homes that were built later, or what we consider new homes, that were built after 2000, 2003 time range. And so these are homes, basically comparing homes built before the Energy Policy Act regulated plumbing fixtures, the 1.6 gallon toilet, the 2.5 gallon shower head, and so forth, and homes that were built after those policies were well in place. And you would expect that water use should be going down, right? Our new homes should be more efficient than our existing older homes. Well, we found that wasn't the case in all but a few cities. And you see that Las Vegas and Phoenix were some of those cities where water use was going down, but in almost every other city, new homes were consuming more water than the homes that preceded them. And that's a serious problem. We have a water issue, and we're literally digging the hole deeper in almost every community in the United States. So why is that happening? It's not that our toilets aren't saving water in our shower heads. What's happening is landscape water use is eclipsing those savings, and we're building more elaborate, larger, more water-intensive landscapes in hotter, more arid parts of the regions that we live in. And so when you look at seasonal water use, you can see that's what's happening. It's actually the summertime demand that's creating most of that increase. We wanted to look at our own programs and see what was going on, and I asked my analysts to look at homes that largely predated the implementation of efficient plumbing fixtures, the low-flow fixtures. So these are homes built between 90 and 95. And you can see the water use patterns, heavy summertime water demand, a peaking factor of about a 1.5 peaking factor, 50% higher water use during the peak month than the average month. So substantial impact on the utility. Then I said, well, let's look at the homes that were built between 2000, I'm sorry, that graph is wrong, but these are homes built between 2000 and 2003. Surely they're better. Exactly the same. We had made no progress. between those two clusters of homes. So then we looked at the ones where we put our landscape restrictions in place. This is how those homes performed. Substantially better, a peaking factor of 1.28. And then we looked at our water smart homes with the extra features built into them, and this is how they performed. Peaking factor of 1.2, 20% higher water use during the peak summer months than in the average month. So it really works, and we're excited about the program. It's showing good results, and as a fast-growing or a temporarily not fast-growing community, this is vitally important to us. Some other projects we're working on, how much grass is out there, how much landscape. We use multi-spectral aerial imagery to assess that. We can even use this information to market our programs. I can see grass on here and distinguish it from trees and other plants, and I can send my marketing materials to the guy with the big lawn, but not to the guy with the desert landscape next door to him. And that was a big breakthrough. We used to just send it out to zip codes, very expensive marketing for some people that may not be interested in our program. We're also starting to use LIDAR assessment, and we're hopeful that more information might actually allow us to start distinguishing trees and guessing what species of tree they have. We know when trees come and go from the landscape because we do this annually. So we know how the landscape is changing from year to year. So this is some of the future of how we'll be assessing the landscaped environment in our community. We have a terrific education program. I hope you'll visit our website if you get the opportunity, more information there. And we also do a lot of research. We've done research with a watering assistant device. I told you about those watering schedules. And we actually have devices we are experimenting with that would take care of those schedules for you so you didn't have to go out and make those changes yourself. We have done experiments on condensate collection, smart irrigation controls, swimming pool evaporation, high-efficiency spray irrigation, and of course, high-efficiency homes. Work on all those projects. So where are we headed to? You can see we were fat. We were big fat. We were 347 gallons per capita per day in the early 1990s. Now we made a little progress up until 2000, but conservation loves a crisis. And sadly, as Americans, we often don't change until we see the brick wall in the headlights. And the drought on the Colorado River was honestly just the wake-up call we needed. It allowed us to put in place the policies that we had been looking for a decade before, but that there wasn't the political will to be able to implement. And you can see what the impact has been, a steady decline in our water use. We're shooting for 199 by 2035, and we're currently at 222. Now, I want you to understand GPCD because you'll see a lot of numbers bandied about by different agencies. There are many ways it can be calculated and many twists on it. So sometimes you get residential GPCD. Sometimes you get potable water GPCD, metered GPCD. So this is all of the water from all sources, recycled, raw, potable, well water, groundwater, river water, everything any of our agencies ever touches, divided by the number of permanent residents in our community, divided again by 365. And I'll be frank with you, not every city uses that same methodology. They sometimes put a little spin on it. So the good news is we're going in the right direction. I appreciate your time, and if Bob tells us I have any time left, then we'll let him moderate any questions.
We have about 5 minutes left for questions. One over there.
Hi, Doug. Phil Campbell from United Association. I also live in Las Vegas. What are the golf courses that spend the most money watering? I'd like to play on them.
You're a bad golfer, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. We actually didn't put the names of the golf courses on those charts because when we were working with the golf courses, we didn't want to rile them up. We said this is what the industry looks like. And they know where their water use was. They knew if they were in trouble on that project. But yes, you may have to be a little bit better golfer than you were before. So work on that game.
Bill Erickson?
Doug, Bill Erickson, Green Technical Committee Chairman. At our last GTC meeting, we had some folks from the pool industry come in and talk about some new technologies as far as pool covers go. And one of them I found interesting was the liquid one. Are you aware of that? And what's your take on whether that's going to be a viable alternative to pool covers.
Well, it actually is something that's effective. So you basically put this liquid on the pool, or you even have a dissolvable container. You just throw in the pool and the liquid rises to the surface. And it's a monolayer alcohol that sits on top of the water, and it decreases evaporation. It's very good for energy reduction. So some of the resorts use it not on their guest pools, but on their villa pools. So some of the rooms where people unlike you and I probably stay have their own little swimming pool, but they're not occupied often, so they'll put that material on there. Problem with it is, you do lose it to splash out, you do lose it to disruption, it needs to be replenished. Customers wouldn't be sure if it was still there or not at some point if they weren't just replenishing it. It's invisible, but it certainly does work. Big energy saver.
Wayne Moody, Versana. On a long-term basis, over the next 10 years, I haven't heard it directly, but I guess it's implied that you'll have, in Las Vegas, you'll have more of a supply than a demand of water.
We certainly do. In fact, that 1.8% of the water that was allocated to Southern Nevada is about 300,000 acre-feet of water. And we currently are drawing about 220,000 acre-feet of it. The water that we don't use, however, we have the ability to bank. And so we bank water through agreements with other states. We may ship our unused water to California to be paid back in the future. Who would have thought that Nevada would be loaning water to California, but we banked hundreds of thousands of acre-feet with California. We also have the ability to bank water by treating it and pumping it into the aquifer underneath Las Vegas and store it for future use. And so it definitely has benefits for us in the long term as well. The water's not lost, the unused water. It becomes a resource for future use.
Joe Catruvo. Very impressive results, I think, in being able to reduce the per capita consumption. And it's actually a little better because you have such a high large number of transients. The denominator actually could be a little larger in reality, and the numbers would actually be better. But still, 220 gallons per capita is a lot of water. I think the average for the country is probably closer to 100 or so, but you have a very hot climate.
Yeah, keeping in mind it actually rains some places.
Occasionally.
So I'm not up to 1 inch of rainfall yet this year.
That's right. But I was just curious. I didn't catch. What's your the cost per 1,000 gallons, the base cost per 1,000 gallons for the drinking water? And
the average cost, so when you look at all those tiers, the average cost per 1,000 gallons is around $3.50 per 1,000 gallons. The average cost of potable water, that's not including wastewater discharge or anything else. Mm-hmm. And so it just depends on where you buy your water. First tier water is actually subsidized. Your first 5,000 gallons is sold at less than what it costs to produce it, and it's subsidized by those people or the water that's being bought in those higher tiers.
Well, that's actually fairly cheap. For example, around here it's about $4 a 1,000. So you could even raise your base rate and maybe even compress the consumption a little bit more. But no, but you spend all your time on the golf course, so it doesn't make any difference.
Phil won't have money for his greens fees if you raise his water bill.
We have time for 2 more questions.
I'm Tom Gagino. I live in Las Vegas. Doug, can you talk about the rebate program where you were paying the casinos to change out urinals to waterless urinals?
Yeah, so our water efficient technologies program is one where we let the customer define their project. So you guys may not be aware of this, but Las Vegas has more square feet of LEED certified green building per capita than any other city in the United States. And one of the biggest green building complexes in the world is the Venetian Sands Palazzo complex. And they changed all of the toilets in both those buildings to high efficiency toilets. They can also choose high efficiency urinals. I personally am not a huge fan of the waterless urinal. I'm more of a fan of the pint flush high efficiency urinals. But they choose the technology and we calculate the water savings and we pay them for their performance. So it's one where we say we're not the expert in every field, you are. Bring us your project. tell us how it's going to save you water, and we'll go out and measure and monitor it, and then we'll pay you on the basis of the water savings you actually produce. So it could be fixtures, but it also could be equipment, machinery, processes in a factory. There are any number of improvements they could make and get a rebate for that.
We have no more questions. That wraps this up. Well, it's now time to get on to the next speaker.
All right, thank you.